Welcome to week 12 of Healthcare Delivery Systems. This week we're continuing financing, but now we're going to look at reimbursement. As always, make sure you review the PowerPoint for this and also read the transcripts that accompany this PowerPoint. It gives you more information. Just want to note that the content now that you're going to be introduced to, you are going to learn about more in ICD-10 and CPT and reimbursement methods, all future classes in the program. So this is just an introduction, and basically it talks about how healthcare is reimbursed. Last week we talked about claims and types of claims and the process and fraud and abuse. This is just a further expansion of that. So the business of healthcare. Let me go back. Sorry. Okay, revenue to healthcare organizations are different than a typical revenue that goes into a normal business. What makes a difference is those payments come in through a third party, which is whoever processed that claim on behalf of someone else. So in this, the first party is us, the insured, the patient. The second party is the healthcare organization or your provider. Could be a hospital or doctor's office. The third party then is that insurance company or plan that paid that healthcare organization or your provider. So it makes it a little bit different, okay? When I go to the grocery store and buy groceries, there's two parties, me and the grocery store. There's no third. Your payment is going to depend on what kind of service you got and what your diagnosis was, and then what kind of formula that payer uses to reimburse for that service. Revenue is money coming in. When we talk about money, that's how much money you've earned. So payments for identical services may vary from payer to payer. So for example, Blue Cross and Blue Shield might pay X amount of dollars for a physical exam, whereas another insurer, say Mutual of Omaha, may pay a different payment for that exam. It just, payments differ. The government right now pays for about 47% of all medical services provided. So when they talk about a revenue cycle in a healthcare organization, that's those activities and events that produce income for a healthcare provider. So that's from that time that patient walks in the door until they get their service, until that service is billed out, until payment is received for that service and that cycle is closed. That's called the revenue cycle, one end to the other. Medical billing, then, on the other hand, is the process where you submit claims to insurance companies in order to get payment or reimbursement. So the revenue cycle is everything beginning to end. Billing is just the process of doing the billing. So reimbursement and claims. Reimbursement means that payment or compensation you get for those healthcare services that were provided. Two kinds of reimbursement is fee-for-service and episodic care. Now, this OER calls it episodic care. Episodic care is about the equivalent of the prospective payment system. So you don't see episodic care used too much, and in your textbook it's called PPS. A claim then is that itemized statement request for payment of the cost of healthcare services that the provider gave or the organization gave. That's the claim. So then when you get to billing definitions, there's a term called charge capture, and that's the process of documenting medical services in order to prepare a claim. Prior to that claim going in, you want to make sure that every medical service that you can bill for or make a claim for has been documented and supported in the record. Okay. One way they do that in the outpatient setting is they have a document called a charge master. And a charge master is a price list. Now, an inpatient hospital also has a charge master, and that's for everything you can get. But charge master is simply a database of prices for services used by that healthcare. So in that charge master, it could be the service performed, everything that they did, whether it was an office call, whether it was an OB delivery, it's in that charge master. Another term you'll see is called electric data interchange, or EDI. That is that actual transmission of data between the organizations electronically. And they use standard transaction sets, which we will get to. Transaction set is an electronic model of a paper transaction or form. So it's just the transmission of data for a claim. It's called electronic data interchange. So in the revenue cycle overview, I told you it was beginning to end. It starts from that time that appointment is scheduled. Registration, they collect a person's demographic and insurance information so that they can make a claim. Then they provide the service. After that service is done, then they do a charge capture to make sure they've got everything captured that they can bill for. Then it's coded, okay, which you'll get next semester. Once the coding is done, then that claim is submitted, usually electronically. You don't see paper claims very often anymore. The healthcare facility gets the reimbursement, and then there's a final settlement with the patient. Registration, you can read over. You'll learn about that in reimbursement methods, and you may have been introduced to it in health records management, but they usually use software to get a person registered. But it's very important in registration to get the right kind of information on a person's insurance. For example, I had an office visit last year. I never got an EOB for the service. I kept waiting. Finally, I got a letter saying, or a bill from the hospital. And I called the hospital. I said, what happened? They said, well, you were denied. And I said, I never got anything. Here they had billed a totally wrong insurance company for my service. So I called, they fixed it, resubmitted it, and was taken care of. So who's ever doing that registration, it's important to get the right information. Charge capture refers to the process of collecting a list of all services, procedures, and supplies during that encounter. So the charge description master, that's the price list that they use to compile your bill. And that's also in a database, okay? So if it's paper, it's usually called an encounter form. That's the most common term. If it's electronic, it's capture, and that's where you'll see the barcode on an item, and they'll scan the barcode, and you had an IV of sodium or saline. There's barcode on it, they scan it, you get billed. It's automatic, improves accuracy. The importance of charge capture, and make sure that you get the right reimbursement, and it also lets you evaluate what care was received. So now we're going to get into coding and code sets. Coding, next semester in ICD-10 and CPT, you will learn that it's simply the process of where you take the written diagnosis and procedures and you change that documentation to a numeric classification or code. The reason why is for tracking in databases and for billing and reimbursement. A code set can be a group of numbers or a combination of a letter and a number used to encode data elements. So they'll have a table of terms, concepts, diagnosis, and procedures for that. And it's really important for that to be done. So I'll give you an example. If I can, I'll give you an example. Blood pressure. It may be documented in a health record that a person has high blood pressure, and another record might say they have hypertension. Two different words, but they use one code to represent both conditions if they're the same thing. Okay, so code sets enable you to give a common number to things that can be called differently too. When HIPAA came around, that legislation said these are going to be the code sets that we're using in the United States. These are the approved code sets. You can't go make up your own. You can't use one from a different country. This is what we're going to use. So the code sets that we use, one is called HCPCS, which is the Healthcare Common Procedure Coding System, and CPT, which is Current Procedural Terminology. That code set is used for billing for physician services and physician procedures in the outpatient setting. Then you have ICD-10 diagnosis codes. That's ICD-10-CM. Those diagnosis codes are used for the condition in which the patient was seen. So you need a diagnosis code. You can never submit a claim without one. ICD-10-PCS is for procedures. ICD-10-PCS is used in the hospital inpatient setting to document the kind of surgicals or other interventions that were done by a physician to treat a patient. Another one that they use is called the National Drug Code, or NDC. Drug codes are by the FDA and drug manufacturers. That's how they track which drugs are prescribed and administered. And then at dentist office, they use CDT, which is the Code on Dental Procedures and Nomenclature. So when the dentist office sends in a bill, they'll use a CDT code. So here's a code sets by provider and where they're used, just to separate it out. And you'll learn this next semester, but it's really hard for students who have never coded to get this right in their heads. If you are a physician in an inpatient or outpatient setting, you use a diagnosis code, ICD-10-CM, to tell what was wrong, and you use CPT for the procedure. Okay? In a hospital facility, now notice that said inpatient. Let me clarify that. If you go to the hospital and you're treated by a physician, you're going to get a hospital bill for your services, and you're going to get a bill from a physician. When that physician sends in that bill, they'll use ICD-10 and a CPT code. So let's say you go to the hospital and you have a baby. They're going to use an ICD-10 code to describe that encounter. She had a baby. She was pregnant. The doctor is going to submit a procedure code under CPT to show that they delivered the baby. The hospital is going to submit a bill too to your insurance. They're going to use the ICD-10 code to show, hey, they had a baby. Then they'll use an ICD-10 PCS procedure code to show, hey, we delivered a baby. We provided services for the delivery of a baby. Whereas the physician's CPT code, that is his bill for delivering the baby. So it gets confusing, but you get two bills. A hospital facility, then on an outpatient, they'll use diagnosis ICD-10, and then their procedures that they use is HCPCS CPT level 1 and any HCPCS level 2. And HCPCS level 2 are the supplies that they might use, that kind of thing. Now notice in all of these scenarios, the diagnosis code is always ICD-10-CM. What changes is what codes they use for procedures. Here's an ICD-10 structure, which you'll learn about next year. It's an alphanumeric structure. There's a decimal point. There's 3 characters before a decimal point, and you can go up to 4. First character is alpha. Second character is numeric, a number. And then 3 through 7 can be alpha or numeric. So here's just an example of a code. This is a sprain of the right ankle, initial encounter. There's your diagnosis. The code is S93.401A. And you'll learn how to look those up next semester. CPT examples. Sorry, I had to take a break. Here's a CPT example. You get the auditory system. You got the external ear here. If they have to drain the external ear because you had an abscess or a hematoma, the code is 69000. That's what the doctor's going to bill to drain that abscess or hematoma. If it gets complicated, then it's 69005. If they have to drain the external auditory canal with an abscess, then it's 69020. And if they pierce your ears, it's 69090. So those are just an example of codes that they use. Here's another example of an ICD-10 code. Here's one for an upper respiratory infection. Notice it's only for 4 placeholders. Here's one for a service procedure or test, a new patient, office visit, level 2 level of difficulty. There's your CPT code, 99202, or a biopsy of skin. And then the immunoglobulin, 10 milligrams of that, J1564. I'm not worried that you know how to do this because you're going to learn how to do it. This is just showing you what it is. Claim submissions in. When that claim goes in, you have the demographic and insurance information. The encounter element